Hey everybody, how's it going? It's me, Jesus Ramirez, and I'm back with you for our fourth daily creative challenge. How are you guys today? I'm looking at the chat, and as usual, I see a whole bunch of people I recognize: Adam, Bobby, Sam, Cindy, Michael, Mark, um, Kale. How are you? Claudia from Print My Soul is here. She's saying happy Friday. Happy Friday to everyone. Does anyone have any cool, fun plans over the weekend? Leave them in the chat. I like some ideas. I don't have any plans this weekend. So, actually, I do have a plan. I'm going to a 2-year-old's birthday party. It should be fun. Lots of cake, I'm sure. Hello from Arizona, Robin. Camilo, hola Jesús. Hola Camilo, ¿cómo estás? From Tennessee, from hey John Paris says hi. I just wanted to just welcome everybody for being here with me for our fourth daily creative challenge. If you haven't been here before, I would highly recommend to you that you visit behance.net slash challenge Photoshop, so you can come into this Photoshop page, this daily creative page, where you could click on this big blue button to take the challenge with me. And what this means is that you'll be able to follow along with me with all these different projects. We're going to do 10 projects together. I'll be here with you until August 2nd. And we've already done 3. We made a pen drawing effect from a photo. Then we retouched a photograph where we removed distracting elements from a background. Yesterday, we learned how to blur a background. And today, we're going to replace a background. More specifically, we're going to replace the sky from a photo, but not just that, we're going to change the time of day as well. So it should be very exciting. Make sure that you click on this Get Started button so that you can download the files that we're going to work with. So just download the PSD and follow along. You can practice with that PSD, but I would recommend that you go outside and take a photo. Maybe you have some old photos that you can use, and try this with your own images. And when you do that, you can then go into our Discord page. You can go to that page right above my head, that link there. You can go there, and it will take you into this wonderful, wonderful page where on the left-hand side you have all these different tabs, and they're all really cool. One of the ones that I recommend going for this particular challenge is on the current challenge tab. You can click on that and you'll see all the challenges that other people have submitted. And you can submit your challenge, ask questions, leave comments. I can help you with any issues that you have. We also have some Adobe mentors, Sam, Tim, are on here, and they could also help you with your questions. So you can see some of the challenges that people have been uploading. This is the blurry background challenge. We have another blurry background challenge, but they changed the color. That's okay. You got to get creative. So yeah, you're seeing a lot of the blurry background challenges being uploaded, but here's one with the pen drawing effect. So come in here, drop your images, leave comments, ask questions. Please, we're here to help. And you also have different tabs you can click on. For example, tips and tricks, where you can find some Photoshop tips and tricks. And yeah, come in here, talk to me, talk to everybody else, and let's start creating. One thing I do want to announce today is that you should go to this survey, and I'm going to paste the link on the chat so that you guys could see it. It's a pace on this page. You'll see a survey that is very short, and it will allow one lucky winner to win a 1-year subscription to the Creative Cloud. All you have to do is click on Get Started and just answer the questions. They're very easy questions, so just take a moment, fill it out for a chance to win a 1-year Creative Cloud subscription. So please, please, please fill that out if you're watching this. The deadline is next Wednesday, so you don't have a lot of time. I would just get it done today. So check it out. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jesus Ramirez, as I said earlier. And if you want to know more about me and the work that I do, you can go to my Behance page, behance.net/JR from PTC. You can see my work. You can see my links. You probably will be interested in my YouTube channel where I have Photoshop tutorials. So I'll take a quick look at the chat, make sure that there is no questions. And somebody's saying, where is the link? I think I pasted it on there, but I'm sure Sam just posted it up. Thank you, Sam. So yeah, I think we're ready to get started. Just wanted to just welcome some people that are just coming in. Aurora, Pamela, Robin, Lance, thank you so much for being here. And I'll give people a moment so they can get into that feedback page. And also remember, go into the replace background section of the behance.net/challenge/Photoshop page so you can download the assets that we're going to use today. You don't have to use them for your final images, for your final challenge that you complete, but if you want to practice and follow along with me, you can use that file. And they are Adobe stock images. They're watermarked. You can find images in Adobe stock. You can download the watermark versions, practice with them if you like, and then if you like the images and you like the design, you can go ahead and license them later. So that's one great benefit of using Adobe stock for your projects. Okay, so I think that's been enough time for you guys to both get the link to the survey and also to the replace background getting starter file. So why don't we just jump right into Photoshop and get started with today's challenge. So this is what we're going to create. This is the original image. This is the after image down below. And you should have gotten a file that looks a lot like this. To make sure that I didn't mess with it, I'm just going to go into File and Revert. File Revert simply takes your file to how it was either originally when you first opened it or the last time that you saved it. If you open the file and saved it and you make changes, then Revert brings you back to the last save point or when the file was last opened. So I just wanted to make sure that I didn't move anything around. So as you can see, this is the final result. And everything is non-destructive. That's very important. You always want to be able to come back and make adjustments to your images at any point. And we have this background image, and just so that I don't confuse people, I have two layers in the labeled background. I'm just going to delete this second one labeled background because we don't really need it. So we have the sunset, and we have this background image, right? So before we do anything else, I just want to explain something about layer mask. We're not necessarily going to use layer mask for the effect. We will use them a little bit, but the entire effect is not really a layer mask, but it relates. So I just want to explain something, and I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. All right. So if you click on this icon here, you create a layer mask. Notice that by default, the layer mask is completely white. You can see that on the layer mask thumbnail. If I hold Alt, Option on the Mac and click, I can see what their layer mask looks like. It's completely white. White reveals, black conceals, different levels of gray give you different levels of opacity. So when a layer mask is completely white, it's going to show everything on that layer, obviously. But then we can go and paint with black. Remember, black hides. And then I'll just select a random gray. I don't know, maybe like this gray right here. And paint, and I'll do one more gray, like a darker gray, right? So I painted with black and different shades of gray on my layer mask, and it already had white. So if I hold Alt, Option on the Mac, and click on that layer mask thumbnail, you can see what happens. The areas that are black are hiding the pixels on that layer, completely hiding the pixels on that layer, and then the different shades of gray give you different levels of opacity. So that's in a nutshell what a layer mask is. So we're going to have Photoshop create the layer mask for us without actually us having to paint it in, because it's going to save us a lot of time. So I'm going to delete this layer mask. And now I'm going to go into the channels panel right here, channels. And you'll notice the channels that make up the image. All images in a screen device like the computer or mobile device that you're watching this through, all the colors that you're seeing are created by mixing three colors: the red, the green, and the blue channel, right? But notice one thing, they're black and white images, really. They're masks. They're masks that control how much light is being put through on that particular image. So this red channel is blocking out red light in areas where the channel looks black. So the water has virtually no red right here. See that? That means that that's why it's black, because no red light is going through. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use these channels as a mask so that we can easily mask out the palm trees and all that detail that would be very difficult using any other method. So what you need to do is just cycle through the channels and see which one has more contrast between the item that you're trying to remove and the item that you want to keep. In this case, we're trying to replace the background. So the blue channel, of course, has the most contrast because the sky is usually blue and then everything else in front of it probably will not be. So, so we're gonna get a lot of contrast between the foreground and the background. So we're gonna use this channel as a mask. But we're not going to use a channel-based mask. Instead, we're going to use a powerful feature in Photoshop called Blend If that allows you to blend pixels together based on their luminosity or the different channels. So let me show you how that works. I'm going to click on RGB. I'm going to go back into the Layers panel, and I'm just going to disable all the layers except for this background layer, right? Then I'm going to double-click to the side of it to bring up the Layer Style window, or you can click on the FX icon and click on blending options. And from here we have this really powerful feature called Blend If. By default it's set to gray, which means that you can hide the dark pixels or you can hide the bright pixels. But you also have access to the channels. So if I click on this drop down, you see the different channels, red, green, and blue. And you can see that I can select the blue channel, which is the one that had the most contrast between the foreground and the background. So now I can start hiding pixels based referencing that channel. So remember how the channel had the palm trees really, really black and the sky really, really white. So we're gonna use that as our mask. So if I click on this white, see, remember the white? We're trying to hide everything that was white. So this white point, I can click and drag it to the left, and magically the sky disappears, and so does the water too, by the way, but that's okay. In this case, it's not really that big of an issue. So this is a technique that we're going to use. So I'm just going to bring this down right about here, and I'm just going to press OK. Even though this is not a smart object, this is still a non-destructive adjustment. I can double click to the side of the layer, and I can continue editing it if I want to. The one thing that I will do is I will click and drag a guide down. I forgot to make a guide because I need to know where the horizon line is. If you don't see your rulers, you can go into View and Rulers, and just enable those rulers, and you can click and drag a guide. And I'm just going to place a guide right about here, right where the horizon line is. I just need to know where that is. Then I'll double click to the side of the layer again, and I can just remove almost all the blue in the image. So I'm going to hold Alt Option on the Mac and click to split that point in half and create a smoother transition between invisible and visible pixels, like so. And you can always come back and edit it. So if you don't get it right the first time, that's okay. Just come back and edit it later. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to enable the sunset image. So see, we have a sky replacement. Now there's a couple problems. The first problem is that we actually remove some of the path right here on the bottom of the image. So we got to bring that back. So you may be working with a photo that has a blue car maybe. So this technique will obviously also hide the blue car. So what do? What I recommend doing is simply making a very rough selection around the pixels that you want to keep. It doesn't have to be very precise at all. Like this. I know for sure that those pixels are going to stay, so I don't want to delete them. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to duplicate the layer by clicking and dragging it into the new layer icon, and then create a layer mask. Then I need to remove the blending options, that Blend If, so that it brings the original pixels back. So I'm just going to right click on here and select Clear Layer Style. Once I do that, the path comes back. So now I have my background, a layer that is filling in the pixels that I hid that I wanted to keep, and now it's just a matter of adjusting the image to make it look realistic. I'm going to select the sunset layer, click on the move tool, and I need to match the horizon line. That's why I created that line. So you might have seen some of my compositing videos on YouTube. Matching the horizon, matching that perspective of the image is key on almost every composite. This is no exception. So make sure that you get the horizon lines to be pretty similar. They don't have to be exactly the same, but the closer that they are, the closer that they match, the better your composite will be. So I can just place that right there, and I'm nudging the layer by using the up and down arrow keys on the keyboard. So you can tap the arrow keys on the keyboard to move the layer 1 pixel at a time. That way you can fine tune it accordingly. So with these layers selected, all I'm going to do is I'm going to select this background image, the background copy, and press Control G, Command G on the Mac to put them into a group. And now we can start fine tuning the image in terms of color to make it match. We don't need our guide anymore. So you can hide a guide one of two ways. You can press Control H on Windows, Command H on the Mac, and that will hide all the extras. So guides, selections, anything visual on the screen that's not part of the image, it will hide it. Or you can press Control semicolon, which is the key right next to the letter L. And that's Command semicolon in the Mac, and that only hides the guides. So I'm hiding it. I can bring it back by using the same keyboard shortcut. So I'm just hiding it because I don't need it right now, but I don't want to delete it in case I do need it later on. So what we're gonna do now is just make an adjustment to this particular image. I recommend that everybody work on Photoshop CC because it's got obviously the latest and greatest features. So I'm going to show you something that does not work with older versions of Photoshop, but I'll show you the workaround in case you are working with an older version. So first, if you're on Photoshop CC, you can create an adjustment layer like levels and then clip it into a group and then make an adjustment to the group, right? In older versions of Photoshop, I think, if I'm not mistaken, CS5 and older, you cannot clip an adjustment layer to a group. So what you have to do instead is go into the group, create a levels adjustment layer, and then select the group and change the blending mode to normal. So now any adjustment that you make only affects the group. So just showing you both methods just so that we help everyone, even so that way if you're in an older version of Photoshop, you can still follow along. But I'm going to work with a clipping mask, and again, that works on the newer versions. So I'm going to select the levels adjustment layer, click on this icon to clip it to the layer below. That means that this adjustment layer will only affect the contents of the group. So then I can just start adjusting it. So I can start making these adjustments to make my image darker. It's later in the day, so we obviously don't have as much light. So right away, just by making those simple adjustments, we just turn this date photo into nighttime. And we can start adding other adjustment layers, of course. We can add, for example, a selective color adjustment layer. Click on this icon to clip it to the layer below. And now we can add color to tones or other colors. So let me give you an example. I'm just gonna select black, and I'm just gonna decrease the cyan, and it's gonna make the palm trees red because the opposite of cyan is red. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, create a color balance adjustment layer, and Photoshop does a really good job of representing the relationship between colors and their opposite colors in this adjustment layer. So you can see that cyan is here and the opposite is red. Then we have magenta, the opposite is green. We have yellow and the opposite is blue. So that's what I'm doing here, but it's not labeled as clearly. I'm not sure why, but it's the same relationship. So I can reduce the cyan and just add a little bit of red on those shadows, maybe add a little bit of yellow, and I can do the same thing with the neutrals. Reduce the cyan, add a little bit of yellow, just to give it that reddish color. See that? See how it's making it seem a little bit warmer in those shadows, much like it would in the real world. So this is a technique to turn a daytime photo into a sunset photo just by using a couple adjustment layers and the blend diff option. I'm just gonna look at the comments to make sure that there is no questions. I'm seeing a lot of Photoshop magic. Yeah, a lot of Photoshop magic comments. Thank you, Mark. Mark said that I explained things well. Thank you, Michelle, Valdir, Photoshop magic, Sam, Photoshop magic. This is so cool. Thank you to whatever Adobe employee made that. I don't know, but we'll thank the the Knoll brothers who created Photoshop. John Knoll and Thomas Knoll are the two people who originally made Photoshop. Obviously, a lot of people have worked on it since then, but they're the two brothers that started it. The chat is so quiet. I hope that the chat is quiet because people are working on their project and getting this going. So one last thing I want to show you, and I'm keeping an eye out on the time, is maybe you don't want to change the time of day on your image. So maybe you just want like a regular, just change the clouds because your sky is boring. You actually would use the same technique, but the one thing that would be different, and I have a clouds image here. I'm just trying to find a cloud that is completely different. This one's very different. I'll just place it in here. Yeah, perfect. A lot of times when you do sky replacements, most people, get everything right. But the one thing that they don't get right is what we just did with the time of day image. So with the time of day image, it was obvious that we needed to adjust the foreground to match the background, or the other way around. In this case, it was easier to match the foreground. So even when you bring in a daytime image like this, you do have to make adjustments like that, because you'll notice all the fringing that you have. That's because the lighting of the original image, or the clouds that you brought in, are very different than what you had in the background. So you need to match those as well. So if you're doing just a regular sky replacement, you can use the same technique. You can try maybe a hue and saturation adjustment layer and adjust the blue so that it matches the same blue that you're working with, adjust the lightness. And once you do that, you'll get a much better match than without it. See that? And I didn't really spend a lot of time. I'm sure I can fine tune it and get it to match even better. But you always got to keep in mind, the item that you're bringing in, what you're bringing it into, and a lot of times they're not going to match because they were either shot at different times of day. And I'm not just talking about skies. This could be anything. So whatever when you're compositing in Photoshop, you always got to keep in mind perspective and the colors. And when you put them together, you got to make sure that they match. If they don't, even though you may have a perfect mask, your brain will know that something is not right, and it'll just be a bad composite. So you always have to think about lighting and perspective. One trick that I like using is simply creating a black and white adjustment layer on top of everything. If I can get a black and white image to look good, then I can probably get a color image to look good as well. So you can see here how the sky just looks a little too dark. It looks better when it's brighter. So there you go. So keep that in mind. Okay, so let me see. I'm glad that people are enjoying the challenge. Thank you, Anna. Soaking it in all, Chad. That's such a great point. Change the lighting to fit the composite. Yes. All right. There's actually that was my challenge for today, which is weird because the last couple days I had so much more to show you. Now we kind of freaked out and thought, okay, I'll keep it simple today. And I think I might have kept it just a little too simple. We got 3 minutes. So I want to show you something cool. What cool thing could I show you? Okay, so since we're working with that image, let me bring it back. I think I have way too many layers here and I kind of got lost of what I was doing. Let me see. Do I have... Yes, so we have... Oh, one thing that I didn't mention is that if you wanted to, I work with... I have way too many layers here now, and let me just keep the ones that we're going to use for the challenge. And now I have all these extra layers that I don't need. There we go. we got it back. One thing I wanted to mention is that if you wanted to, you can also add lighting effects to the image. For example, we have the bright sun here. You could come in here, create a new layer, and just select white to begin with. Paint, clip it to the layer below, and then change the blending mode and see if that helps. So for example, color dodge is a good blending mode, and then click uncheck transparency shapes layers, and it creates... It's not that noticeable just because it's dark. Let me just brighten up the image just a little bit so that you could see what I'm trying to do here. There we go. So you can see how I'm starting to add these highlights to the image. Once again, I'll enable this so you can see. I uncheck transparency shapes layers. See the difference? So I can start painting in those highlights if you wanted to get really, really good at doing this. Whoa, that was way too much. But anyway, you can come in here and start painting the brightness and use the fill opacity to reduce. Not the opacity, the fill. Just because with this blending mode, using fill as opposed to opacity gives you better results. And one last thing I should mention is, you notice how all that is really jaggy? You can just go back in there into the background image and start adjusting it until you start getting less of that jagginess. So it's a lot of fine tuning, of course. So, obviously, I'm not going to spend the time to make all those adjustments on this stream, but that is an option that you have. You can always fine tune the image. So it looks like it's time to end the stream. I just want to mention the challenge/Photoshop page. Click on the big blue button so you can join me in all the challenges. Make sure that you join the Discord page. The Discord page is right here. And I would love to see your sky replacements on here. You can put them under the current challenge tab. And also, don't forget the survey so that you can win 1 year of the Creative Cloud. One lucky winner out of the people who submit before Wednesday will get a 1-year subscription to the Creative Cloud. My name is Jesus Ramirez. You can find me on Behance. Thank you so much for being with me. I look forward to being with you again on Monday. I hope that you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you guys on Monday. Thank you guys so much.